So I'm back with Brandon Olivas, Santino DeFranco. What shirt you have on? Looks like a Yoda or something.
Well, actually, this is a funny story, and I did this kind of unintentionally. I try to like shuffle my shirts and not wear the same ones. But this was actually I used to train at Gracie, Arizona, and a guy came from Philly, uh, Matt Hill, I believe that's his name, and he's like, "Yeah, I own a nutrition shop in Philadelphia, so it's called Primal Nutrition." And I'm pretty sure he does jujitsu out there. I'm pretty sure he's friends with all the Philly boys, all the Philly boys that we like. So I was thinking, okay, Petrosky, he came through. So we have to represent the Philly boys.
I like it. I like it. It's so funny because I do the same thing. I'm like, I wear the same four shirts every day of my life. Like, I probably have like 100 shirts. I wear four of them. And then as we're doing the podcast, I'm like, what shirt did I wear? What did I wear? What did I wear? And I try and find something that I didn't wear. And I'm sure I wear the same three shirts on the show anyway, trying to find shirts. I guess I could look back, but that's way too much effort. I'm
What
not
is this
doing that.
powder blue shirt? Is this an old, San Diego Chargers throwback?
Yeah, it's the Hawaiian version of the Chargers.
Mm.
It's actually way more turquoise than this. This camera makes it look super faded bluish. Yeah, I guess it's Chargers blue, but yeah, it's not. It's a Hawaiian shirt. It's one of the few shirts I wear in public because I hate MMA stuff in general. But this one actually is turquoisey, which I'm okay with.
You know what's funny is I was wearing the red version of that same shirt and actually took that off to put this one on like 2 minutes ago.
Well, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. We've got another fight night coming up. But before we get to that, you guys, check out MyBookie.ag. They are a sponsor of the show. They are always hooking us up, and they are also going to hook you up with a 50% deposit bonus. So use MMA Picks 50 and get up to a 50% deposit bonus. And then, of course, my memoir is out. So this is, sponsored by my memoir. There are no hospitals in Russia. And somebody asked me, like, hey, what is that? What is the book about? Of course, I said, MMA and my upbringing and this and that. But it's really not. It's really not so much about my upbringing. That's just kind of an interesting treat. But, it's really about failure. Well, there's two things. It's about failure and overcoming failure. And me personally, like, I think you can fail at stuff. I'm okay with failure. And when you guys are younger, people don't want to fail. They don't want to fail. They don't want to fail. But as you get older and older, I'm actually okay with failure. What I've decided I'm not okay with is quitting. And I always thought that I was not good at things, just when I was younger. And it turns out, you don't have to be good at things right away. You fail at them and then you keep going, and then you fail again and you keep going. You fail again, you keep going. And eventually you find success. And I've actually found success a lot of success late in life, but I've had so many failures younger, in my younger years, high school years, teens, 20s, 30s. And even today I still fail. And so for you people out there, just know that failing is all right. People, if you give everything you have, you're fighting coming up. I've fought before. You don't want to lose a fight, but if you've done everything perfectly and you go out there and fight your ass off and the other person does that, somebody has to win and lose. All right. And as people win, they lose, and life goes on. But if you quit along the way, if you give up, whether it's before you've achieved the goals that you want to achieve or before, mid fight, we know people who have been fighting their ass off, and you just see the quit show up right then and there. And that is a hard pill to swallow. When you get done with stuff and you got to look yourself in the mirror, whether it was a fight, whether it was a football game, whether it's a tennis game, whether it's a promotion at work or trying to go to school, you've got to look yourself in the mirror, man. And I know that through all of my failures that I've ever had in life, like, I know that I look myself in the mirror every night and I'm okay with who I am. But when we've quit and I've done stuff that I'm ashamed of, not only just sports, just stuff in general, quitting to me is something to be shameful of. Um, I can't live with that. I can't look in the mirror. I can't look at shame. I can't look at quitting and be okay with that myself.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. I was actually thinking a lot today. This is probably a rhetorical question, but have you listened to the Kendrick Lamar album?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Okay, there's a song on there. It's called, I think, Father Time. And I was listening to it, and it was a really interesting song to me. And I guess I kind of want to get your take because, I never really knew my dad growing up. I never really had a male influence. My mom worked super, super hard. And so I think I get a lot of work ethic from her. I try to, bust my ass. Everything that I do, I try to put 100% into it. I mean, I don't go out, I don't party. And it's not because I think I'm like goody two shoes. I'm just too busy doing everything else that I've already thrown myself into. But he on the record, I think he says something kind of like him talking about his feelings was always kind of considered like mental weakness, and him being competitive is kind of like a form of trauma, and him, wanting to be the best or tough it out. And I was thinking, man, like what is kind of the line there, right? Like we're kind of progressing in this world to talk about more mental health and get these things off our mind. But then where's the line of, like, don't quit? Like a lot of rhetoric these days is like, no, you can, if you're not feeling good, you can just quit whenever. And then it's like, where's that line of, hey, just shut the hell up and just go finish what you started, be competitive, want to win, like those little things that are, I guess, maybe toxic masculinity, but at a certain point, they really do help us be successful. Uh, it was just interesting, his take on it, kind of guiding those principles as like trauma or daddy issues and stuff like that. And I've been with you for so long. I mean, you've been a major figure in my life, just as any coach would be. And I think I used to do that kind of, like I guess I used to think that way. And now I've become more like, hey, let's just go get shit done. Tired, hurt, whatever. Let's just kind of push through to the next thing. I mean, shit's got to get done no matter what. I mean, what do you think about that kind of, like the Kendrick thing?
Man, I'm with it. And you said like we've got to grind. Everybody is so passive these days, and it's disgusting. Even there's a guy, who's been at Fight Ready a little bit, working some sports psychology stuff with the guys, and one of the things he said before the one of the fights, and I'm not going to go into details and names and stuff like this, but before a big fight, he said, I walk into the fighter workout room and he's listening to Christmas music. And, the whole thing, the sports psychologist was there. And first of all, he's not a sports psychologist. He's a guy who's like, hey, I'm going to read some books and do this thing. And now all of a sudden I'm a mental coach. All right. So if you're going to see a sports psychologist or any psychologist or any medical health professional, go see a medical doctor, go see an actual psychologist, PhD, PsyD, MD, things like that. Go see people who actually know stuff. You want to see a nutritionist? Go to an actual registered dietitian, not some guy that took a weekend course. All right. So that's my rant on that. But I go in there and they're listening to Christmas music, and this mental coach is telling us, hey, the thought behind that is like, everyone's nervous before a fight, and everyone's nervous and scared and this and that. But this is like Christmas. You should be excited about this, just like a kid is in Christmas. It should be something to look forward to. And I thought that was stupid, but I'm like, hey, whatever. And I'll explain why I think that's stupid in a minute. I was like, hey, I don't understand the situation. I wasn't in the room during all these meetings, so whatever. So then the fighter's out there smiling on the way to the cage, smiling in the cage, loses. All right. And, that's the very, very, very short version. And my version of that is, you shouldn't be smiling. You're about to get into a fight. All right. You should not be excited. I mean, you should be excited. Don't get me wrong. But if you're not, everybody is trying to find a way to like pacify everything. And one of the things they're trying to pacify in our sport right now is the nerves. And they're trying to diminish nerves. They're trying to diminish like this sports psychology. Don't be nervous. Push it away. Think of it as excitement. And that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. You should be scared shitless, not because you're about to get hurt. Like if you're worried about getting hurt, you're in the wrong sport. We're all going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You should be scared shitless because you worked your ass off towards something. And anytime you work hard towards something, you want to win, and you should be nervous. Like that's part of it. Go be nervous. But the thing is, everyone's like, don't be nervous. It's like, no, be nervous as shit.
Be nervous. Yep.
Yes, but don't let that control you. Don't let it paralyze you. And
Yes.
like control the nerves, but nerves are good. Nerves keep us safe. It's fight or flight. Like that is what it does. And it keeps us sharp. Anytime somebody tells me they're not nervous for a fight, I go,
They're gonna
this
lose.
is 100%. 100%. And so everybody is trying to pacify everything. Everyone quit. It's uncomfortable. Don't worry about. What you're saying with Kendrick Lamar is something I've been saying with the fighters for a while, is like, stop trying to be comfortable here. Like, nerves are uncomfortable. Fighting is uncomfortable. Be okay with being uncomfortable and grind through it. That is life. We've got to deal with this stuff. And, it's funny that you mentioned that, because it's kind of in my book, I talk about it a little bit as well. The guy who did Dirty Jobs, Mike Rowe, also wrote a article on this. One of the best things I've ever read. In this passive world, everybody is like, oh, you can do anything. Oh, you can be whatever you want. Go find something you love. Go. First of all, you guys, I'm an MMA coach and I train world champions and I travel around the world. I mean, this is everyone, like, people's dream jobs, right? Yeah, I hate it. I hate it in the sense is that it's a job. Once it is a job, like, it is not a hobby anymore. It's not fun. It's just, and if I were an NFL coach, I would hate it as much. If I worked in a bank, I would hate it as much. It is a job. It is not fun. Stop trying to, first of all, everyone is not equal. We're not born equal. Our genetics aren't equal. I'm smarter than a lot of you out there, and I'm dumber than a lot of you out there. And that is not equal. I have a lot more money than a lot of you out there, and I'm a lot poorer than a lot of people out there. And same thing, when I was born richer and poorer and dumber and smarter and all of that stuff. We are not equal whatsoever. We don't have the right to discriminate, but man, if anybody says we're equal, they are selling something. Um, and what Mike Rowe said is, stop trying to be this like amazing thing and find your dream job. Find a job you don't hate that gives you enough money and gives you enough time and balance. And that's it. Like, quit trying to pacify everyone with everything. And, I mean, this is a long rant, you guys, but I mean, that's it. Grind. Get your ass down to the grindstone and go. And you show me all of the talented people out there in the world, and I will show you, a bunch of people who are not going to win against
Oh,
just somebody who
we just went
grinds.
dark.
So yeah, my light went out. I'm going to turn this light on really quickly, and then we'll get into the show. Hold on one second.
I,
Yeah, I'll
I,
edit
I
that out.
guess I guess to just kind of wrap it up a little bit. This was kind of my thought on it, and man, you know what? We talk about Kamala Kirk all the time, and to me, he's one of the strangest anomalies that I've ever met in this sport, because your childhood was pretty troubled and crazy and not traditional than most people's. Mine wasn't too bad. I grew up without a dad, but I'd say 95% of the people that we meet in the sport have some kind of, what you'd classify trauma. Like, it's not normal people with, perfect households that are getting into the sport, which is why Camuela confuses me, because I know his parents, they were together until he was, grown already. And it's bizarre, but we get a lot of unbalanced people. And then I think, weird as it is, like, every day I think about it, I'm thinking more like Sean Strickland. Like, the thing that I love and I kind of respect about Sean Strickland is, like, just shut up, just go do it. Like, let's just spar a million times. Let's just go. And maybe he can save his brain here or there, but I think we're toting this line between, what is probably positive for mental health and as we progress through the world. And then at the same time, hey, we just got to get up, go handle business. And maybe not everything has to be trauma. Maybe sometimes, like you're talking about, just has to be a little bit of balance. But sometimes when it comes to doing man shit, we got to go do man shit. And you get in a cage with grown men, time to go do man shit.
Well, you talk about trauma, and I think there's two really interesting things there. Is the trauma of, a lot of us have trauma, and that's what kind of, that's what makes you grow. You need to, but trauma is not equal. Like, your trauma is relative to you, my trauma is relative to me. Somebody in war torn, Iraq, their
Yeah.
trauma is relative to them, and nobody's trauma is bigger or smaller than anybody else's, but it builds character. You've got to have some sort of, you've got to overcome things, whether they're, super white America, easy, like, oh man, I didn't get an A on my math test, or if it's war torn Africa, whatever. So you've got to overcome those things. But I think some people like that, like Camuela, is like the Cal Sanderson's. I mean, he came from a Mormon family in Utah, two parents, as perfect as it gets, best wrestler we've ever seen. And I think some people are
Armin
just
Sarukian. That dude's
there.
one of the greatest fighters I've seen, and he's got a rich diplomat family that's probably the wealthiest in the UFC, and it's
Yeah,
insane how good he is.
exactly. Sometimes that just happens. But the other thing, what you said about Sean Strickland was really interesting because he said he's just like go go go, and just let's go balls out, and you could probably save his brain. But that's a really 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 big topic right now in MMA and combat sports and football and everything is CTE. And you have all these guys that are like, oh, we don't want to spar hard. Oh, let's go lighter. Oh, let's save our brain. And I am 100% about a lot of that. I have a brain injury. I have an aneurysm. I know more than anybody about brain trauma, probably in the sport, and I'm smart about it. And, so I get it. That's 100% true. If you're somebody asked me recently on Instagram, they actually messaged me and said, hey, coach, I want to fight. I want to train, blah, 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 but I'm worried about my brain. Should I, not spar as much or blah, blah, blah. I said, don't get in the sport.
Don't
I
fight.
said, don't fight. If you're worried about your brain, you're in the wrong sport. We're all leaving with CTE, and that needs to be understood. And if we don't get
Oh,
it,
CTE, broken knees. We're going to have injuries. Guys, my hand, I'm 25 years old, and this is as much as I can open my hand, and I'm not even a professional yet. I haven't even
yeah,
broken into the sport yet.
yeah. I mean, so if you are worried about getting injured, man, get out. Same goes with football. If you're worried about injuries, get out. If you're worried about fighting, get out. Um, to be good, you have got to spar hard, and you need to, because man, when the lights come on and somebody is right there in front of you, you need to go balls out and be able to maintain that for 15 minutes. And it is a different level of like pitter pat, pitter pat. Now, once you know that you can do that, okay, now you can tone it down and you don't have to go crazy all the time. But man, you have got to learn. You've got to grind. You've got to get dirty and ugly and break your nose and get stitches and get ripped apart and lose some brain cells before you're ever at the level where you can tone it down and
Yeah.
play spar.
You
So
got to go through hell to get. I am nowhere near that level, but I think it took me. I mean, how long have I been training MMA now? Maybe 7, 8 years. I don't even know, something like that. It's been 7, 8 years until I've felt comfortable getting hit, just getting
right.
hit before I'm shying away and running. 7 years for me to be comfortable getting hit. And just now I'm learning how to tweak things like, okay, I can get hit and return. I can get hit and, not run away. Like it's such a crazy feeling. And, I've taken a slower path, I think, than some just with my hand and, just work and life and other things in the way. But yeah, I think most people on the inside of the sport would tell you if you're interested in it, don't be. Go to school, get a good job, live. It's a much calmer life. I mean, you've told me since the beginning, if you ever want to be successful in this, and why the hell would you do something if you don't want to be successful? You have to give up birthdays, you have to give up events, you have to give up going out, you have to give up a lot of shit that's really important. That makes for good stories when you're a grandfather. You have to give up all that stuff and be kind of locked down in a bunker and being focused on one goal. And people aren't willing to sacrifice that, and then you become mediocre, and that's when you get brain damage. That's when you're getting one punch KO'd and CTE, and it's a whole different ball game. So
Yeah,
go do
but if you want to
jujitsu.
yeah, but if you want to get good at anything, you got to do that. I mean, Bill Gates was grinding computer programming at 14 years old in a lab by himself long before we ever knew who he was. Elon Musk was doing the same thing. Like anybody who is good at anything better be dedicated and better be willing to give up everything for it. And you better learn it. You better learn the ins and the outs in every which grimy way you can. And then you can start messing with it, just like fighting. You better do it the hard way. There are no shortcuts. Actually, there is. There is. There absolutely
Steroids.
steroids, but there's absolutely one shortcut. And I say this jokingly to people all of the time, but people always ask, what's the best way to lose weight? What's the best way to get abs? What's the best way to anything? And the answer is always hard work. That is it. That no shortcuts. Take the traditional path, work as hard as you can, and that is always the fastest way. If you try and do all of these quasi pseudo shortcuts of anything, it just ends up taking longer, costs more money, and leads to more routes of failure.
I think that was sorry, and we're going pretty good, but we got 11 fights on this card, guys. We take a little bit of time. We got timestamps. Skip where you need to.
Yep.
Um, But there was this. This is kind of along those same lines. Is like when the P90X videos used to be really big back in the day. Like everybody was like wanting to get that in the beach body and the P90X and all on the insanity and all that kind of stuff. And I remember hearing somebody say, if you can't just do push-ups in your living room, why do you think a video on TV is going to tell you to be doing that? Like if you weren't already doing push-ups and sit-ups by yourself, what makes you think now you're going to do this because you have a DVD telling you to do the same thing? It's going to just come from your desire to do it, whether you have somebody telling you or not. Now, maybe somebody can guide you, but again, if you weren't already doing that before, start, get it going, do it every day, do it 100 times.
Yeah, just go. Whatever you're doing, there's never people there are years and lifetimes wasted dreaming and thinking about all of the things they'll do once they get started. Just start. That is the best advice you could give anyone to anything. Time is going to pass no matter what. You want to go to law school? Okay, well, 3 years from now is going to pass, and 3 years has gone by. And you could have graduated from law school or you could have not graduated from law school. I mean, anything that there is, the time will always go by. Oh, 10 years is a long time. Well, 10 years is freaking going to go by no matter what. What are you going to do over that 10-year period? And then after that 10 years, what do you have for it? So really, if you're ever worried about whatever you want to do is going to take a long time, yes, it
Yes,
is,
it
or
will.
no, it isn't, or it doesn't matter. Do it because the time is always going to go by. And I mean, unless you like die. I mean, unless you get like hit by a car or something, like then it doesn't matter. Unless you have a sudden death, it doesn't matter. Or if you're like 98 and it's like, well, law school is 3 years. I don't know if I'm going to make it through. It's like, well, all right, you have a pass. Other than that, if you're not 98, as long as you don't get hit by a car, do whatever you're going to do.
All right. Well, that was a good one. I do want to just touch on last week really quick. I had a perfect segue in my mind. I had it loaded up and then we went deep for a second, but, man, what a great week you had last week. What did you go 14 for 14 on all your picks?
I think it was 12 for
Uh,
12.
Okay, 12 for 12. I think I did 6 for 9. And then the following day, guys, if you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me. I just retweet stupid stuff and basically talk to myself. But sometimes I tweet out some really nice stuff. So on Sunday, after all was said and done, that is my favorite day to cap fights, whatever. I sit down with my morning coffee, 6 a.m., and I start watching film on Fury. And I put out like on Twitter, I'll put out like a free like parlay. And man, we were one short of completing the entire thing, but I think we hit a plus 544. Clean victory, nice sweep. That was a good back to back to back days for the Discord and the Patreon. And I do want to say, guys, when I first started this and I was doing this by myself, and kind of what we were talking about before, like you have to put time in. I I had never been serious, and then I said, "Wait, I know the sport. Why can't I watch fights?" And then I would spend hours and hours and hours watching film by myself. I wasn't telling anybody picks. I was doing this by myself. Um, I'm forgetting where I'm going with this. Uh,
We got on a rant. We got on a rant. Well,
yeah.
if you remember, let us know. Um, yeah, it was a good week. It was a good week. A lot of people made a lot of
Okay.
money.
Wait, I got it. So I was doing this by myself, and I was doing very, very, very well. I was succeeding a lot, and at the time, I was like, man, I wanted to be the rebel against. I didn't even know MMA Twitter was a thing. I didn't know capping was a. I don't know these terms. I always wanted just to be the nerd with the backpack. I got a really nice Ferragamo backpack, and nice laptop for doing all this. But I just wanted to be the outsider. And then when I would win, I'd be like, man, I'm the best in the game. I know better than everybody. Guys, it's gambling. You're gonna have good weeks, you're gonna have bad weeks. You killed it. You've swept the two of the last 3-4 weeks. And we don't need to go on a victory lap in this parade. All we got to say is congratulations to everybody that was in the Discord. That is awesome. We're happy that you guys made money. I actually had somebody message me and talking about the Discord, and he goes, hey, you told me this before and I didn't realize it was true until I signed up. He goes, it's not just picks. Like he goes, you guys have so many smart people in there and it's just such a great community. And that's something that I really, really cherish. It's not just picks and whatever. Oh, we're the best. We're the best. We charge $25 a month. A lot of people are giving a lot of heart and soul and other topics than what we do. Um, it's just a great community, guys. It's past just UFC picks. picks of all kinds. It's good think tanks. It's just a really positive, cool community. So great job last week. Great job to the Discord.
All right, well, let's get into this week's fight. First up, we've got Elise Reed versus Sam Hughes. Why don't you give us your thoughts on these first? We've got Elise Reed, who's 5-1. We have Sam Hughes, who is 6-4. I think the comps in terms of like age and height and all that good stuff is pretty negligible, pretty comparable on stuff. But 5-1, Elise Reed, she lost to Sijara Eubanks, ground and pound, round one. Beat Corey McKenna, split decision. Those are her only UFC fights. And then on the other side, we have Sam Hughes, who's 6-4. And she fought, honestly, she's got a pretty solid resume. She fought Vanessa Demopoulos, who's now in the UFC. She lost in round 4. Danielle Hindley, who was 4-1 at the time. Then she comes to the UFC, fights Tisha Torres, Loma Luke Bunmi, Luana Pinheiro, and then Estela Nunez most recently. That I mean, she won that by majority, but there was an eye poke point deduction. Without that eye poke, I think she probably would have ended up losing that fight. So, what are your thoughts on this one?
I actually don't know that she would end up losing that fight. I actually really like this spot. So just in general, I think Sam is. I have said this forever. She is way, way better. Not better, but tougher than people give her credit for.
I'm just turning my light up.
All right, you got it.
We're good. I think I turned it up too much this time. Keep going. Keep going.
It's only the 100th time that we're fixing this freaking light. All right. Yeah, I really like Sam Hughes. I really like her style, especially against Elise Reed. I think Sam Hughes is going to bring the style that we were hoping that Corey McKenna brought, where she brings that forward pressure, that good boxing, mixing in the takedowns every once in a while. The Sam Hughes versus Estela Nunez fight, honestly, was super, super impressive to me because Estela Nunez is sick. She is such a good striker for at least a round and a half. But Sam had that perfect game plan. She gets in her face, wears her down. But the thing that I really, really liked was actually her body work. Her hands are actually really nice as she moves forward. She's, she takes her licks, and I think Elise is going to hit her. But I love the body shots. I love mixing it up to the head. I think Sam is a really, really good play here. Elise is good, but she struggles a little bit when people pressure her. She's definitely a much better range fighter than in close boxing. Her takedown defense is not great, and I think Sam does good enough, punching high, low, and then mixing in the takedown. So I actually don't know the odds on this. Is Sam a dog here?
Yeah, Sam is a plus 141. I was looking at that now, and Elise is minus 174.
I like the dog play here. And then obviously, I mean, if you're going to do a parlay builder, over 1.5, over 2.5, I think that's going to be pretty safe all the way around. I think Elise can hang in there, but I really like the Sam play here.
Looking at Elise, I mean, we saw this quite a bit. Look at round one, Estela Nunez versus Sam. And Estela, first of all, you're right. Her striking, God, it's just really nice. It is really nice. And Estela moves a lot of lateral movement, but she threw those up kicks right up the middle, a lot of teeps right up the middle, a lot of jabs. And then again, the lateral movement. And she hits hard enough to make any woman second question just rushing in and going, which is why I think, especially in that first round, I think Sam Hughes just got tagged up on the outside. She didn't know how to get inside. And she's there. I think you're being a little kind to her in terms of her stand-up. I think for the first round and a half, I thought she was a heavy bag, but I think she was tough enough and grinded it through and found her way in. And honestly, I think her durability threw off Estela Nunez. And we saw it, I think it was the end of the second round when she got her down and started just beating on her for maybe 15 seconds, had her arm stapled. And she came out in the third round with a different demeanor. I think that freaked her out a little bit. Elise Reed actually moves a lot like Estela Nunez in the lateral running around, kind of a lot of movement, hard to find. Lots of side kicks and power shots. Okay, from that rear hand. I don't mean like she's like a heavy hitter. I mean like she throws that rear side hand a lot of power shots. The difference though is she throws side kicks and she throws these round kicks to the head they're not up the middle the same way that Estela Nunez throws them. And so I think Sam Hughes is going to be able to find her way on the inside a lot easier. And then the other thing is she just doesn't hit as hard as Estela Nunez. She doesn't have the power, which I don't think is going to worry Hughes. And it's really weird. I don't think she has good takedown defense. Like out in the open, I think she'll just get taken down and kind of lay on her back a little bit. On the cage, she does. I wouldn't say that she has good defense on the cage, but she anchors well and knows how to look kind of long and lean. And if you know how to chain wrestle, I think you will get her down. But if you think you're just going to like grab her and throw her to the ground, I think she's good enough to kind of make life hard for you. That said, I agree with you on the Sam Hughes thing. I think Sam Hughes is tough enough and durable enough and has good enough cardio to be in her face and break the movement down. And I think if she is able to get a body lock on her, I think that she's going to throw Elise Reed to the ground. And I think the pressure is going to be too much. 3-round decision right here. I actually read something. I forget what site it's on, you guys, and I'll try and remember. It was a stat site, and they took all of the UFC fights over the course of a year, and they measured it out. If you bet $10 on every over 1.5, every over 2.5, and then with title fights 3.5, 4.5, stuff like that. And if you actually bet every fight over 1.5, just blindly bet over every fight, you'd actually lose money. But if you bet every fight over 2.5, you'd actually win a lot of money, and which is just a weird thought to me. So I kind of I don't know. So take this with a grain of salt, you guys. I'm going to play with this a little bit too. But pretty much any fight that I think is going to go over 1.5 or over like could go the distance, I'm going to bet. Like you kind of know, okay, there's a good chance this fight doesn't go the distance, and then okay, there's a good chance this is over 1.5. I think if you're going to bet the over 1.5, you may as well bet the over 2.5, especially on the women's side. So I like over 2.5 on this one, or the fight goes the distance. I think that's an easy way to sweeten this up. I think Sam Hughes wins over 2.5, or Sam Hughes wins by decision.
All right. That does it for that one. So next up, we got Chase Hooper versus Phil Colares.
Okay, so this is another one that is kind of interesting on the odds. Do you know the odds on this?
No.
Okay, so Chase Hooper's a dog here. And you know, I mean, for as much as Chase Hooper should pretty much be a dog always, I don't know that this is the fight that he needs to be a dog in. Um, we've got Felipe Colares, who I know well. Luke Sanders fought him, and he homered Simpson's Luke. Luke beat this kid to an inch of his life and just wouldn't die. And then Luke was gassed, and Carl Harris came on, and it was a really close fight. And honestly, props to Carl Harris for sticking it through and toughing it out. Has had a couple really good hip tosses, judo tosses, wizard throws, right in a mounted Luke. It could have been stopped a couple times, whatever. He's kind of upright in his stand up, okay? And we saw it with the Peterson fight, man. If you go in and you batter Chase Hooper, you can batter Chase Hooper. But Carl Harris kind of sits back in this karate stance. He throws these middle kicks. His striking is not dangerous. It's durable. I mean, he's fine. It's not bad. It's not the worst. It's not the best. He's got a decent chin. He's not very fast. He's not very scary. The thing is, he shoots quite a bit. He actually shoots takedowns a lot. He's not a great wrestler. I think if anything, he's a better judo guy. He's got better whizzer kicks, better trips, for the most part. And then his ground is serviceable. It's fine. Okay. On the other side of that, we've got Chase Hooper, who is not a great striker, but for as bad as his striking is, we saw it against Peterson as well. He will throw back and he will land some shots here and there, and he will do enough to not really get hurt with people outstriking him. As weird as that is and as bad as he looks, he somehow manages to like wiggle his way into these grappling exchanges. His offensive wrestling, again, is not great, but he somehow manages to turn failed takedowns into body locks, and failed body locks into grabbing somebody's head, and then getting thrown to the ground into attacking a leg, and then attacking a leg into coming up to the back. He is a stylist, a specialist to the T. And I think that Colares is not overly dangerous. I think Chase Hooper gets the win here. I think I wouldn't even be surprised if he gets the submission, but I think he is going to out scramble Felipe. I think Colares is going to be a little bit more comfortable wrestling than he should be here. And I think the tall, gangly, awkward Hooper is going to get the win, and he's a dog. I think we've got 2 dog wins right off the bat. I don't think we're going to see too much more of that, but I like Hooper here for the win.
Yeah, I had thought a lot about this one and kind of what to say here because to me, a Chase Hooper fight is much like a Ryan Hall fight. It's really, really hard to just see what's going to go on because a lot of it's going to have to do with the opponent's reaction, and there's just a million things that can go wrong with the Chase Hooper fight. His stand up is horrible, horrible, horrible. He doesn't react well to punches. He looks like a child. I mean, he just looks like a child in there. He is a child. He's 22 in the UFC, the highest level. And the crazy part is he wins fights. I had to go back and look at his record, and I could not believe. First of all, his contender series win over Kanan Kawaii, impressive, right? Like you say, Homer Simpson. Kanan beat him within an inch of his life, and then he came back and dominated the rest of the fight over a tired Hawaiian. Go figure. Um, and then Daniel Tamer, very impressive. Heel hook Peter Barrett, that's not a big deal. And lost to Alex Caceres, who's been beating everybody. And Steven Peterson, who is a tough veteran. So it, what is he? 2-2 in the UFC. He's won on Contender Series. He's just got the most awkward freaking style. And every time I thought about this fight, I thought exactly what you already said is like, can Colares put him away early? Because if he doesn't, Chase finds a way to pull guard, which looks horrible. He literally does like 2015 jiu-jitsu. Like back in 2015 when everybody was doing donkey guard with Jeff Glover and jumping and flipping and inverting. He still does that, but he does it in a professional MMA cage on the biggest promotion in the world. It's crazy to me. But that being said, he knows his jiu-jitsu. He does weird transitions. He's super flexible, finds his way to the top, and he throws nasty elbows from the top. Once he gets there, he is attacking submissions or he is elbowing your soul. Um, Against somebody in Colares who already, we've seen a couple cardio things here and there. Not the worst of all time, but here and there. I think Chase can get to him late. For me, pardon me, I could see Chase winning, and I'll pick him. I hate that pick, and I probably won't touch this fight. I don't know how to approach this fight. I could see a heel hook early. I could see a finish late. I could see this going to decision. I don't really know where to go with this one, but I guess I'll take Hooper here.
Okay. And the other thing to note is the last 6 fights of Colares, win or lose, are decisions. So he is not a finishing guy. So I think Chase could win by submission or by decision, and I think Colares, can only win by decision. So just something to note there, you guys. All right. Next up, we have Jonathan Martinez and Vince Morales. All right. Jonathan Martinez is 15-4 coming out of Factory X out of Colorado. Last fight beat Alejandro Perez, beat Zivid Dlashvashvili, lost to Davy Grant in a very good fight up until he got hit with that patented Davy Grant body shot hook coming up and over, body head. Beat Thomas Almeida and beat our guy Frankie Saenz. On the other side of that, we have Vince Morales, who beat Luis Smolka, who just fought last week in a fight that we all thought Smolka was going to win. He beat Draco Rodriguez. And then, of course, he lost to Gutierrez by leg kicks and Benito Lopez. Tell us about this fight. Thoughts?
Going back to watch tapes is sometimes the most fun thing ever. I didn't get to watch live the Martinez versus Perez fight. I don't know if I've ever seen a fight where somebody didn't throw a punch for 2 rounds and won each round. That was unbelievable. Didn't throw a single punch. I mean, only kicks. And it wasn't like he was setting up the kicks or kick sparring. He was just throwing one-off kicks, one to the head, switch kick to the lead leg, to the body, teep kick, back to the head. It's almost like he was doing them in order and just going round and round and round and winning the round. It was unbelievable to me. And when I was watching that, I'm going, okay, I think Morales can outpoint him, out volume him here. Uh, Morales is making strides. He's a high volume, high output guy. He tries really hard. That last round when Perez came out swinging, Jonathan Martinez's hands are nice. When he wants to throw them, they can be very, very, very nice. We've seen his takedown defense. It's excellent. He's got great takedown defense, good cardio. He checks out. He checks out almost all the boxes. Pardon me. In a fight against a guy that his teammate had already fought and stopped him with leg kicks. Now the thing that's going to change a little bit is he is southpaw versus Chris Gutierrez, who's orthodox. So the calf kicks are going to be not as available. But I think he does a good job of keeping people controlled in his range. He makes people fight his fight, keeps them on the outside, throws his kicks. When he needs to throw hands, his hands are very sharp. They're very, very fast. I think Vince is fine. I think he's solid. He just pulled off that London card for injury or sickness or whatever it was. Um, I think I like Jamar here. I think for the first time anyone will hear me say it, I think I like Martinez.
That's funny because you are not on the Martinez train. I am always on it. You are not on it.
Misses weight every time, looks fat, looks lazy.
Yeah, he looks like he's like coming out of a subway station. Like he just looks confused. Where is he at? What's going on right here? Like who knows? But you hit it on the head right there. His kicks, he really manages range with his kicks really well. But his hands are really good. He just doesn't use them. I don't know why he doesn't use them as much. He's got a really good right hook, and he's got a really, really good, like a short little check overhand. I mean, I wouldn't even call it a straight. He just kind of turns it over, short in the distance, stands up well. I like Martinez. Morales, I think he's getting better. I think he hits hard. Um, I just don't see how he wins here. I don't have to. I don't think we have to go into this too much. I think he's tough. The only thing that I really see Morales having a big advantage over is volume. Where if Morales was a little bit more technical, if he was a little stronger, if he was a little bit better in one area, then maybe that volume could really do something. But he just doesn't he doesn't have the technique to let that volume do what it should do if he had a little bit more technical level to combat Martinez. I think Martinez is just a little bit too advanced for him and is going to be able to just kind of dictate the range, dictate the pace. When Morales wants to really press and do a lot, I think he's going to get hit with that liver kick for good measure. And I don't know. I don't know if I see this going the distance, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Martinez get a finish here.
All right. Next up, we got Uros Medic versus Omar Morales.
This
What do you
is,
got on this one?
this was an interesting one to me because I know Omar Morales really well. Our guy JP Pierce fought him, so I have watched every bit of tape there is to watch on Omar numerous times. I game planned against him. We figured out like, all right, this is a guy, this is a thing. We've got to deal with it. And I was not really familiar with Medic over here, Uros Medic. So he's got a loss to Jailton Turner, which there is no freaking foul to that. I mean, Jailton Turner
No.
that dude is so freaking good right now. I love him.
And I think I screamed it from the rooftops. Maybe we both did. You and I both love Jailton Turner in that matchup. And, it's not to take anything away from Medic, but Jailton Turner's just that freaking good, man. And Jailton Turner was a dog in that. Can you believe that?
You want to know who I was screaming? It wasn't the Medic fight. I don't know if I even taped it, if what we were doing at the time, what I was yelling from the rooftop was against Malarkey. I said I thought he was going to beat Malarkey. I don't remember him with Medic until I watch it for this show. Man, Jailton Turner's freaking good. On the other side of that, again, we've got Medic. He's a kickboxer. He's at King's MMA. I couldn't really find a lot on his kickboxing background. But as southpaw, and so he loves to throw, and rightfully so. Southpaws love to throw that left middle kick. Okay.
And who does he train with?
Exactly, Giga Chikadze. So there's that. His hands are man, there's some stuff on Instagram where his hands look really good. He looks really solid. He looks really tough. In his fights, though, his hands do not look as good as they look on the gram. I think his kicks are definitely better. His takedown defense is non-existent. Um, and I think he uses his range well in terms of honestly not even striking. I think he uses his range well with that cage wrestling where he's tall and he kind of knows how to be tall. It's what we're talking about with Elise Reed. I don't think I think you start chain wrestling him, you're getting him to the ground, but he knows how to be tall and awkward and gangly and weird up against the cage. But on the other side of it, we have Morales. Go watch, um, Benitez liver kick the shit out of him and throw that left middle kick for days. And he's like, okay. And then watch Giga do it. And turn the volume up. Go watch Omar Morales and Giga Chikadze and watch and listen to when Giga is landing that middle kick. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's like gunshots going off. It's like bombs. Omar Morales doesn't blink. He doesn't at all. His wrestling's good. I mean, his defensive wrestling is really good, which I don't think is going to come into play here. But he will offensively wrestle if he needs to. He's durable as shit. The knock against him, of course, is he's 36. The other knock against him is if people don't press him, it's kind of like Martinez. He is okay with a very low volume fight. If you press him, just like Martinez, he will fire. And he's got good hands. He's got good striking. He's got good wrestling. Honestly, outside of the JP fight, he's got good cardio. JP is just a cardio machine, a wrestling machine, and will wear you. He's going back up to 55. Honestly, I like Morales here. I don't know. I think you say it all the time. Be very careful of people who have all first round finishes. And we've got round one. We do have round two finish, round one, round one. But these are 2-0, 4-4, 1-4, 0-1. Okay. Um, you move up. He's got the ground and pound, the Alon Cruz stuff, the flying knee. I don't think Morales is going to fall for that. Um, I mean, outside of something kind of going weird, Morales does get a little bit square in his stance sometimes, which leaves him open to stuff up the middle. And if Medic wants to throw those flying knees, those switch knees, maybe he lands it. But Morales is 5'11". He's tall. I just don't see it. I think, and honestly, I think if Morales wants an easy night, I think he could take Medic down and really ground and pound the shit out of him. Because I don't see him getting caught in a triangle.
So it's funny you say that because actually Medic was my poster child for don't trust the guy with all first round things. And man, everyone was watching the contender series and watching the Alon Cruz fight. And they're like, no, this guy is the next superstar. He's going to do it. And I said, okay, he looks really, really good in these fights. He does. He's brutal. His ground and pound is nasty. He does. But I said, I've watched every single fight of his. They're all on Fight Pass and it's an Alaska FC. And some of these fights were the most sad things you've ever seen in your entire life. I'm not kidding. Like people in basketball shorts out of the crowd that he just gets to go knock out. The one really alarming one was actually against Nathan Feitosa, who is only 29 years old and is now has a record of 1-6. That's the only fight of his that went to the second round. He was losing the first round. He got taken down, was losing the first round, and then came out in the second and finished it against a guy who's 1-6 and way smaller than him. So there is some of that with Medic. Now, I will say this. To me, technically, he's looked a million times better since moving to America, or not to America. He was in Alaska, but moving to Kings. He has made so many improvements, and I think there's a lot to like about Medic. In the Alon Cruz fight, especially looking how Alon Cruz just handled Maurice Cheeks, and you know Maurice Cheeks because you guys just game planned against him. Beat the shit out of him. He looked great. He looked like a guy that belonged in the UFC. Every box checked out, takedown defense, and you see the way that Medic handled him was sad. Should have stopped the fight 10 different times. Medic against Mikey Gonzalez. Mikey Gonzalez didn't belong in the cage with them, and none of the other guys belonged in the cage with them. So where are we at really with him? Against Jailton Turner, the one thing I did like is once he was taken down, it looked like he knew what he was doing enough to try to stand up again. So I think we're somewhere in between. Okay, this guy's a complete fraud. He's got a million first round knockouts. It's first round or bust. And hey, he's actually learning how to become a complete MMA fighter. Um, but if you put a gun to my head right now, I'm probably going to choose the guy who's just a little bit more solid, has been a veteran of the sport, and trains at Sanford MMA. I'm a big believer in Henry Hooft and the keep it simple, stupid. He trains with really good partners. He's got clean boxing, and you saying he's durable with the liver kicks is about all I need to see because that's Medic's number one thing is that liver kick. It's beautiful, it's powerful, his ground and pound is nice, but the JP couldn't hold Morales down at all, like at all, like until he finally gassed him out, which was super super impressive. So he's got good wherewithal, he's got good fight IQ, he's got records of decisions. I think I like Omar here. Uh, Hedge your bet if you need to, but with Medic by KO. But other than that, I think we're probably good for Morales. And don't get crazy with it because I think he could finish Medic. We don't know what his cardio looks like. So take Morales straight up, and then you can hedge it with a Medic KO.
Yeah, I think two things you said were interesting there. One that comes from Alaska Fighting Championships. Who else has the most padded record on the planet from Alaska Fighting? Do you know?
Carlton minus.
Even worse, Jordan Wright.
Ooh.
Jordan Wright.
Is that all from Alaska? I thought he fought in LA.
It was half and half. I think like half of his fights were in Alaska, and then the other ones were down here somewhere, maybe New Mexico or something. But yeah, so that's really all you have to say there. But the other thing is, you said he trains with Giga. He can manage. Go watch the Giga fight, man. I mean, Morales lost that fight, but he was not just completely outclassed or just beat up or like knocked out. I mean, it was like he stood in there, landed some good shots, and I mean that was Giga's fight. Don't get me wrong; like I don't even remotely think Morales won, but if Giga's not putting him away and he's putting up a really good fight with Giga, I just don't see how Medic is gonna put him out. I actually think a weird one here is I think this actually goes a round and a half. I think this is a good bet, a round and a half, because I think Medic is going to go out there swinging and going nuts. I don't think Morales is going to be phased, and it's going to keep going. Morales is not a strong finisher, so I think he'll be there to grind on him and break him down, but I don't think he's going to do that in the first round. I think if we see a finish from Morales, it's in round two, later in round two, or maybe even in round three.
Yeah, I think that's a really sharp play. I kind of thought the same thing. I think Medic is good enough now. He knows what he's doing enough that he's going to end up on his back working up, and we're going to see a complete real fight instead of him being berserker.
Yep, I think so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, next up, we've got Parker Porter and Jailton Almeida. And this is a weird one. This is at heavyweight. I'm assuming this is at heavyweight. And Parker Porter, I mean, is a tank of all tanks of a human, and going against Almeida, who I think his last weigh-in was like 203, who's not a huge even 205er. Do you know the backstory on this? Like why this at heavyweight? What the hell is going on?
I think he just wanted to fight. Said, I don't want to cut weight.
Man, that is weird. Well, we have Almeida was supposed to fight Maxim Grishin. I guess that might have answered my question right here. Almeida was supposed to fight Maxim Grishin on this card. Grishin pulled out, so maybe Almeida needed a last minute replacement and said, "Hey, I'll do it at heavyweight against Porter," which is just weird though to me. Let me hear your thoughts on this.
I didn't admittedly do too much tape study on this one. I really don't think we need it here, to be honest. And it's not being like arrogant or whatever. I think the recipe is really simple. I mean, Parker Porter has done a lot more than he should have. He's upset a lot of people. His last fight, he was a huge favorite, and he let me down big time. I mean, he couldn't finish Badeau, who doesn't like to be hit at all. He looked fatter than usual, sloppier than usual. I think his wrestling is vastly overrated. His jiu-jitsu, I mean, he's fine. He's fine. But I'm really impressed with Almeida. And I picked him on Contender Series against the Russian. That was one of my more proud ones because there wasn't a whole lot of footage on him. But the footage that I saw, even way back when, before before he actually fought on Contender Series, he's dynamic. He's got a crazy blast double leg. And that is something that the entire country of Brazil does not have, is a double leg. He blasts guys and they go down, and he is. I mean, we saw him out Dagestani the Dagestani. I like him. I think if he gets Parker Porter's fat ass on the ground, uh, it's quick night. It's wraps for Parker Porter. He can finish it pretty much any which way that he wants to. I think this is a really don't overthink it fight. It's, I think people are going to try to find the angle here that, okay, Almeida's going to get gassed out from trying to take Porter down. He's 6'3", guys. When he blasts doubles, he's going to be able to lock his hands all the way around Parker Porter, and he's been on the bomba since he was probably 3 years old. Like, he's going to be able to take him down. He's way more agile at heavyweight than Parker Porter is, so he's going to be able to keep him down. He's going to hurt him. And even standing on the feet, I mean, he's got good striking too. He's got great, front kicks to the body. He does a lot of things really, really well. I think this is the ultimate don't overthink this fight. Parker Porter is not a marathon runner, and he's not some crazy slick boxer. He couldn't put away Alan Badeau. So now he's going to put out the juiced out Brazilian, who's going to be the UFC's next poster child. I don't buy it. I like Almeida here.
It's weird. The lines on this are really, really, really. They like Almeida here as well. I think he's minus 800.
Shouldn't they?
Yeah, but at heavyweight against a very durable guy with his only loss against Chris Daukaus in the UFC, you'd think that the lines would be a little bit more favor in, just not skewed like that. I think
maybe the odds makers watch their last fights.
Yeah, maybe. I just, he fought the Russian on Contender Series, who was kind of a smaller 205er anyway. Who did he fight last? We talked about this on the pod. I forget. Took him down.
My goodness. You were trying to go on about Danilo Marquez. Oh my God. I could not believe that.
Hey, look, I didn't say he was going to win. I said he's going to do better with his wrestling that you think is just that bad.
You're like, he's an NCAA 3-time champion.
I said he's the best wrestler I've ever seen in my life. Nobody has ever taken him down before. And I'm going to send my kids to wrestling camp with him. I believe those are my exact words.
Fast forward 3 seconds into the fight, he's on his back getting choked out.
I just wonder about the durability of Parker, which I think is good. I think Parker is very durable. I think he's going to be hard to take down. I think this is going to be a harder fight for Almeida than people think. I think Almeida wins this, but I was looking at some of the odds, and I think it was like under 1.5 was not like odds makers are thinking this is a 1-round fight, and I think it's going to be a 2-round fight. I think Parker is going to make life a little bit harder for him, and I think. I don't know.
How though? How does he make it?
Which, by honestly, he is. Norma Dumont over here. There was one of the fights she fought recently. I said she is just not great at anything, but she's durable. She's hard to take down, and she's just gonna out nothing her opponent.
Is she hard to take down? Because then we watched her fight tall Macy Chasson.
No.
She got ragdolled.
But against the opponent, who is the opponent?
It was Aspen Ladd who's
shit
crazy.
Like that. That's, it was one of those things where it's like Aspen Ladd doesn't have great striking, but she's not going to get the takedown, yada, yada. And I think that's Parker Porter here. I don't think Parker Porter is probably going to win, but I think he's going to make it a harder fight for Almeida than it should be. And at minus 800 for Almeida, where's the play? Like, where's the, I just don't see.
By finish. That's the only way you can do it.
I just don't see this even remotely being a bettable fight, and if it is, it would only be dog or pass, or like that Almeida or that Parker gets it into 2.5 rounds, or something like that. I think a over that.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's the only.
Seriously, that's what you're thinking?
I'm not saying that is the play. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to bet it, you got, like, odds wise, maybe that would be good enough to take, or something like over 1.5 or over 2.5 if the odds were decent, because. At minus 800, there's no money in that. Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah,
I just look at it as an unbettable fight.
It'd be in a parlay, but that's when you're gonna have to get creative. Like, I know DraftKings, a lot of times they'll list like a winner and over under a certain amount of rounds, and you can get some decent odds on that. I don't know why. I don't see a way that Almeida doesn't finish this fight. I mean, he's so dynamic and he's so big. And he fights actually in a good style and really didn't get that tired. Even in the, we talked about it last time, is he uses his energy well. And he throws strikes that are kind of like low low risk, low rent. He throws those front kicks to keep people off him. He's going to hit that big fat belly of Parker Porter. Like, I don't really see a way that he doesn't finish this one here. And I'm not being like, he could totally lose, right? Anything can happen in fighting. But this is one that I really don't even get that scared for. Like Maximov last week. Okay, the big thing with Maximov last week, and I was like, okay, well, why are we even talking about this? Maximov's going to win. And the reason I thought Maximov's going to win, I didn't think he was a better fighter. I thought he was a better fighter over the course of 3 rounds, maybe, right? And then we saw that Petroski put him out in 1. Who we don't even get to know if he was the better fighter over 3, right? But this one here, Almeida just he can wrestle his ass off. And when you get a big fat heavyweight on their back, life gets really, really tough. Now he's also a very good black belt in jiu-jitsu. Like, he's legit. We've talked about it. His jiu-jitsu is pretty amazing. And he mixes that in with a lot of the like kind of the Sambo Russian stuff, like does a lot of Dagestani handcuffs, stuff like that. He's excellent. He's nasty from the top. Like, I don't really see a way he's not going to finish this one. So, like, my play would be, hit Almeida and under 2.5 and then parlay that with something else, right? Like, that's just the way that I see it. I don't see a lot of resistance here.
See, I think there's going to be more resistance, and that's why, and maybe not. Like, I'm just trying to find the play here in terms of odds. I don't think Almeida for the win is worth anything at minus 800. And then I think I don't.
Do you think Parker Porter comes out with a flying knee?
No, I don't think Parker Porter could throw a flying knee. But he's just one of those guys that's durable enough that I just don't like and again, you guys, I don't think he's going to win. I think we've talked about this more than we even need to. I just don't like, for being so much money, for such a heavy favorite. I mean, it's Maximov last week. Maximov was a minus 400. And I think I asked you, like, why is he a minus 400? Like, I expected that to be really close.
It didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense. And I think I said this. Don't quote, go back and look. Maybe I did. I think I said, if you want a good dog bet, which I don't usually bet odds. I think odds are bad. Bet Petroski for the odds, not, and I rarely look at odds and stuff like that in terms of like, oh, he's a plus 400. I'm going to bet this. He could win. That's what I mean. Look at the odds. Of course, we're looking at the odds. And I look at the odds of going, he's a minus 800. It's not worth it. But I never go, oh, he's a plus 400. He might get it. And this is one of those that just for the odds, it spooks me out. Spooked me out last week. I didn't touch that fight. And the other one last week that spooked me out was Ion Cutelaba and Ryan Spann. It was just one of those ones I was like, nah, I'm not on it. I'm not on it. This is another one. For some reason, I'm just not on it. So that's my thought on that. I'm sticking with it.
All right. Next up, we got Joseph Holmes and Alan Amedovski.
Man, is this you or me?
I think this is you.
Okay. We've seen Holmes a bit. He just fought recently, and we called Pickett to beat Holmes. Holmes was kind of untested. Quite a bit of, that I think he was 7-0, all the finishes. Kind of what we were talking about with Uros Medic, recently, and we were right. He wasn't tested. He fought Pickett, who's just a tough son of a bitch and won't die. And, it was just hard to take down, all that good stuff. So, sorry, I'm looking at my phone. My wife is texting me over here. She's out of town. So I'm home with the kids. I'm playing dad and coach and all this stuff all by myself. And for all you single parents out there, holy hell, man. I mean, we both come from single parent homes, but it is hard, man. My wife's gone for 4 days, and this is like the hardest week of my life. But anyway, Joseph Holmes, he's tall, he's rangy, he's got really clean down the middle boxing. He's got good movement. His wrestling's not great, but he has good, solid jiu-jitsu, and I think he probably learned a lot from that Pickett fight. On the other side of that, we have Alan Amedovski. He's 8-2. He is 34. He's 5'10". I mean, this guy might be. I mean, he's almost like Jordan Wright over here. He's just like in his last fight anyway, just ran out, head down, swinging haymakers like he was in a street fight or something. Got clipped and put out. Like, what the hell was that about? But he kind of does that almost in all of his fights. he is just in your face swinging for the fences. I mean, he's a guy that we're talking about. He does not have a fight. His only fight that has gone to a decision was against Krzysztof Jotko. Um, Other than that, all finishes, even his loss. I don't think that Holmes is going to get caught with something stupid down the middle. What Holmes does well too is he crowds. Like he'll use his range on the outside. He uses super long, but when people come inside, he grabs them. And for striking, I think that's smart. I think it's smart against Allen. Um, I mean, man, I like Holmes here. I don't think the fight goes the distance. I think Allen finds himself at the end of a submission after getting clipped and getting wild.
I'm with you 1,000%. And I wanted to make sure that we were good on this. I actually asked Kraus in our Discord, James Kraus, I said, hey, was he in shape for that last fight? Because if you remember, he took it on really short
Yep.
notice, the Jamie Pickett fight. And he said, yeah, he was looking good, but, it's just a tough fight, short notice. It is what it is. I think his striking's clean. I remember going back. I had talked a lot about him negatively. I actually picked him to win on Contender Series, but then I had talked about him negatively, and here's why. Every fight that he's had in his career, with the exception of his very first fight against, was it Jordan Newman, who's just a insane beast wrestler, uh, all been teed up for him to win. I mean, you got 1-1, 6-8, 4-1, 0-1. But the one that was really alarming was the Dwayne Diggs fight, right? Dwayne Diggs, old guy, horrible, shows up in basketball shorts, and that was a showcase spot for Joseph Holmes, and he probably gave up the first round
Yeah.
to wild swinging random Dwayne Diggs, which wasn't a good look. But then he comes back and he wins on Contender Series again, not as impressively as he should have, and I think I don't. He didn't get a contract, and then he had to go fight Jehovan Patty. That was an impressive knockout, very very clean. Then he lost to Jamie Pickett on short notice, and now he's fighting Alan Amedovski. The tough part here, so everything in me wants to go Joseph Holmes. I think he's a way better striker. I think he's way more complete. He's been fighting way more often. He's got a good coach, good team, good gym, everything like that. I think he's got the size, he's got the technique. I like a lot about Joseph Holmes. The only thing with Amedovski is we just don't know what he's been up to. I mean, he's been gone. He's been at Extreme Couture. He's been training with Hamzat. Like, he's just kind of a random guy. But the thing that just always stuck out in my mind, they just say he's such a tightly wound coil. And he's just so like, everything is just, oh, he's like pressure, pressure, pressure. Um, I think Ugly Man Joe, I think he just flows out there. And I really like that. I don't see the fight going to decision. I think Amedovski's going to get KO'd, or he's going to finish with a first round KO, throwing some big bomb over the top. So I think that's a good play. Doesn't go the distance. I like Joe, Ugly Man Joe, a lot here, actually. I just think he's the better fighter, been fighting more often. He's younger, taller, a little bit better everywhere.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think that's it. Um, we say when somebody needs something special to happen, generally that person loses. And with Amedovski, he's got to land that big punch. If he doesn't land that big punch, he loses. So it's not like Dan Henderson, where it's like, okay, Henderson can wrestle, he can do some other stuff, he's got the defense, he's been there, he's grimy, he can clinch. Amedovski has to land that big punch, and if he doesn't, he loses. Jordan Wright has to land that big, wild, dynamic punch right off the bat. If he doesn't, he loses. Um, that's this fight right here. I think the better fighter is Joseph Holmes, and I think he wins this.
All right. What do we got next?
We have, your boy, Eryk Anders and Jun Young Park. I'm not talking about this. I train Eryk, been training him for, going on a couple years now, a year and a half, something like that. It's been done his last 3-4 camps with us. Solid human. And first of all, somebody out there pissed me off. I don't know if it was the last episode or the one before, when somebody posted on the YouTube comments like, you need to disclaim when you train fighters or know them, and that's dishonest. Are you guys retarded? Like, can we still say that, retarded, or is that not allowed anymore? Am I going to get canceled?
Yes.
Am I going to get canceled? Okay, so we're canceled. But the only thing I said, it was about danger, and Tracy. And I said, Danger, we've trained him, but aren't like friends, don't train him a lot. He's trained with us, whatever. And then Tracy, we went on a 10-minute rant on how we've trained with her since she was an amateur. So I guess the disclaimer for Eryk Anders, for you people who can't.
You train him.
Oh, oh, do I? Do I? Should I say that? Should I tell these people that I train him? Oh, well, I train him, so I'm not going to talk about him. So don't leave it in the comments. I don't even know. What you should do, though, is go follow him on Instagram because he's funny as shit. He's hilarious. And John Young Park is his nickname is the Turtle, which is just funny, too. That's all I've got on that one.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep this one really short. This is I can't believe that Eryk's such a big underdog here, and it's nothing more than I think Park's really underwhelming. He's like his body's really weird. He's like the toughest guy at the bar that can throw a nice jab, like kind of used to box. Like he's not big, he's not physically imposing. Um, he's a decent wrestler and he's one of those grimy guys. So here's my favorite play. I think Eryk is a really good underdog here. I think the orthodox and southpaw play, that's going to be something really, really interesting to watch in this fight because for you guys that don't, I guess, necessarily know the ins and outs of the fighting, right? When you are opposite stance, because Anders is southpaw, correct?
Yes.
And Park is an orthodox fighter, right? Well, Park's best punch is a jab. And when you're standing opposite stance, the jab is not really a super effective tool. It actually becomes the straight punch, right? And Eryk Anders hits like a truck. He's got a really good straight punch over the top. And we just saw Park. We see him get abused in pretty much every fight, and he has to fight through some turmoil, eventually get a late takedown, and that's how he ends up winning the fight. Well, Anders got his 74% takedown defense. He got taken down a couple times, but he's a world champion brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So he knows what he's doing on the mat. I trust his coaching, trust his gym. I think he's a really good dog shot. But actually, my favorite play here is probably going to be the over 1.5. Over 1.5. I was going to push it and say 2.5, but I think that Park is super, super durable. And just the fighting styles, it's going to take them a minute to kind of figure out where they want to go with things. Park did good enough to get out from Gregory Rodriguez back control, so he can grapple. Anders can grapple. I think a lot of their game is gonna push each other farther into a deeper fight. And Anders has a lot of decisions as of late too. So my favorite play 1.5. I think Anders is a pretty solid dog here too.
All right. You heard it. You heard it. Let's move on. We've got Polyana Vianna and Tabatha. What is it? Baby Shark? What is her nickname?
Baby Shark.
Baby Shark, yeah. Ricci, who's come out, and Tabatha's awesome, and really nice girl. I don't train her. She's come out, worked with Vanessa a little bit.
I didn't get to meet her.
You didn't? Oh, that's funny because
No.
she was out here. For like
I
a week
missed
or
the
so.
gym the one day that she was out. Yeah.
That's funny. Awesome human, awesome human, awesome human. Little tank too. I rolled with her, and when you're rolling with, I'm 5'10", 165 pounds. She's 5'1", probably walks around at 125 pounds, 130 pounds, fights at 115. Rolling with her, when you're rolling with smaller people, or if you're rolling with women, you try to like technique stuff without using your strength because, what the hell are you doing? And man, rolling jujitsu with her, it was everything I could do to try and win in jujitsu and do stuff without just being like, all right, I'm a man, I'm throwing your ass around and I'm just doing stuff because I'm big. She's really just a solid technician, solid jujitsu, solid, wrestling, a little bit of a judo background, really, really solid overall. Her striking is definitely her under polished area, but it's not bad. It's not like in terms of bad striking.
Well, her wrestling.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, she finds ways to get takedowns, and when she tries to, her cage wrestling is bad, but when she just blasts doubles, she gets it. She understands it. She gets some hip tosses and stuff like that. But in terms of her cage wrestling is her weakest area. But just a shot right out in the open. But honestly, it's not even going to matter because Polyana Vianna pulls guard, like literally jumps to guard every fight. So like, I mean, does it even matter? Polyana, she is a jiu-jitsu girl, gangly, is going to pull guard and is going to try and go armbar. I think she actually got armbarred as well. Her last 2 wins were armbars. She lost by armbar. And then, of course, she lost
That, by the way, did you watch that recently?
the armbar loss. Are you asking?
That
Or
was maybe the bet. Yes, that was maybe the best armbar I have ever seen in MMA. Period. That was unbelievably gorgeous.
no, I didn't rewatch that one.
Oh my God! Wow, 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 wow. What is her name? Macedo.
Yeah.
Woof. Beautiful.
Um,
That's all I got on that. It's just gorgeous.
okay. I thought you were going to elaborate. But really, I think this comes down to, can she submit Tabatha from her back? And I don't think she will. I think Tabatha is strong enough. Now, man, the really telling thing here is strength of schedule. Tabatha hasn't fought anybody with a pulse before she got to the UFC. She fought Manon Fiorot, and we got offered that fight as well, and turned that right the fuck down. Like, that was like, no way are we fighting Manon Fiorot on a couple days' notice, moving up a weight class for Vanessa. I was like, not a chance in hell. Manon is legit, and she's tough, and she's physical. And we saw what happened with Tabatha Ricci, and that would have been Vanessa. And we're like, nope, not happening. But I think Tabatha's durable. I think she will throw heaters. Her stand-up is not great, but she will throw bombs. Her stand-up is getting better. She's getting more comfortable. I think she will push the cage position. I don't think she'll get a takedown on the cage that easily, outside of, Polyana pulling guard. I don't like guard pullers. When you have a strong top player jiu-jitsu girl against a guard pulling jiu-jitsu girl in MMA with punches, I'm going with a strong top player jiu-jitsu girl any day of the week. Do you see this? And I think Tabatha might be a dog here. Is she? Let me see. Where? No, she's minus 130. So, not a favorite, but not a crazy favorite, which is a bettable favorite.
Well, this one was really interesting to me. A lot of preliminary talk in the Discord before I finally got to get around to watching this. A lot of people were really high on Tabatha. They're like, this is one of the best spots of the week. And I started watching film and I said, really? This is one of the best spots of the week? Only because I know Tabatha so well. I've been betting on her fight since LFA, like early LFA. The one thing that bums me out with Tabatha. So first of all, you hit it with strength of schedule. Weirdly enough, the toughest person I think she's ever fought was actually Kelsey Arneson. I've talked about Kelsey Arneson more than any other podcast on earth ever has. This is probably the third time I've talked about Kelsey Arneson. But what was interesting challenge with Arneson is she was 5'5". Well, also Polyana Vianna's 5'5". Okay, so that kind of taller, rangier. And she was very strong. She's a rock climber, right? And so what did impress me about that fight for Tabatha, she wasn't able to get the first takedown. She had to fight and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight to get that takedown. And once she got the takedown, it was smooth sailing from there. But to get that takedown was really, really tough for her. So you're right. Polyana literally will chase you down to pull guard, which is such an insane thought that nobody said, hey, why don't we not do that? Why don't you go get a takedown? Like, her top jiu-jitsu is fine. It's solid. The tricky part here is I don't think Tabatha's striking is very good. And I don't think that Polyana is a glory kickboxer, a K1 kickboxer. She looks like she kind of took classes at LA Boxing, and that's how she throws her punches. But she's fast as hell. She snaps her punches so freaking fast. And the fight with Tabatha, her last fight, I loved that fight because I thought Maria Oliveira was one of the worst fighters on the entire UFC roster. And she actually made kind of a close competitive fight with Tabatha, which was really alarming to me. So you got the same height, that same kind of snappy punches, and you got the jiu-jitsu aspect to it. So all of these things are clouding my mind. And I'm like, Tabatha's got a fight on her hands. Like, if they keep this fight standing, honestly, I think Polyana could squeak this one out. I think she's at the very least better kicks, faster punches, and just that kind of like that crazy reach. She does a lot of like pulling her head back, but girls just can't reach her, especially Tabatha, who's 5'1" and kind of throws with that tight boxing. She's not going to be able to tag her chin standing. to me, this fight comes down to who messes up first, who makes the dumbest decision first. And in that last Maria Oliveira fight, Tabatha got to mount and she's setting up the armbar, and she wanted to do it so badly. She wanted to go for it. And you can just hear her coaches. I think Frangia, how do you say his name? Frangia.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he's in her corner and he's going, "Do not do it, do not do it, do not do it." And the coaches are screaming, "Don't you go for that!" And she wants to so badly. And then they got close enough to the cage where she just stayed on top and she started making punches. So with that one sequence, I think that was enough for me to say that I think Polyana is going to make the dumber mistakes. And all of her wins are in the first round too. She's a first round sub or losing to Hannah Cyphers.
Yep.
Hannah Cyphers, she lost by armbar, and she lost to JJ Aldrich, who JJ Aldrich is not some world champion in jiu-jitsu. I think she's a blue belt or a purple belt, and she's just solid on top. Honestly, the biggest part that scares me for Tabatha here is in the striking, not because, Polyana's amazing, but she's just fast. She blasts really, really hard kicks, but I think Tabatha's forward pressure and slightly better decision-making, I think will be enough to get it done here. Safe play over 1.5. I think over 2.5 would be really, really solid too.
Yeah, I think you're right. The difference between this fight and Tabatha's last fight is Polyana's not going to try and defend and get back up. She's going to pull guard. She's going to give her the takedowns. And I think that alone is enough. But standing, I don't think that Tabatha needs to outstrike her. I think she will swing a big overhand clinch,
close that distance,
and push her against a fence. And I think between the cage pushing and Polyana pulling guard, I think it really comes down to, can Tabatha not get armbar triangled from the bottom? And I think she can. I think that's a smart enough play that we can bet.
And she's so little. Like, she's got these little tiny arms. How easy is it to defend?
Exactly. So at minus 130, I think that's a solid play. I think I love the over 1.5, and I think it's a solid one. So next up, moving along, Chidi and Njokuani and Dusko Todorovic. Man, tell us your thoughts on this, because I've got a few.
Well, if this isn't the UFC telling you exactly who they want to win, it's very rare that we see these. It happens every so often, maybe every 3, 4, 5 cards. They're telling you exactly who they want to win. It's pretty clear they want Chidi to win. Now, is he going to? I hope so. I like Chidi. I think he's good. He's due. It's been a while. Dusko just has problems. He was very, very good for a local circuit fighter, but the big kryptonite for him has always been his chin. He wants to come rushing in with punches with his chin straight up in the air. He gets rocked every single fight and then manages to either gas the guy out or waits till they mess up, and that's how he wins the fights. The dynamic punchers that he's fought, Puna, put him out. That was a brutal fight to watch. Maki was actually doing so well until he wasn't. Freaking Maki going for a guillotine. Chidi is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Who knows what that really means? Do I think he's Damian Maia? Probably not, but he's fast. He's dynamic. He throws great knees down the middle. He's super tall, super lanky. I think it's Chidi time. Chidi, bang, bang. And I think hopefully his takedown defense has gotten just a little bit better. At very least, his stand-up game. I really wish we got to see that Mab fight play out more than the 7 seconds that it lasted. This can't be a huge play for me just because of the threat of takedowns, but I do like Chidi here.
Yeah, the thing with Todorovic is he's slow. Oh my gosh. Like, you guys, I am a slow, unathletic white guy, and this is the slowest unathletic white guy. I mean, gosh, I don't know. I don't know if I've seen a slower striker.
He's going to be even slower in a few years after all this brain damage he keeps getting.
100%. So he is a striker. It's funny watching tape on him. I'm like, all right, I don't remember if I've seen him much, and so I didn't really know a lot about him. I know I've seen him a little bit, but I just didn't recall memory. So I'm watching him and I'm like, all right, when's the shot coming? Okay, when's the shot coming? Because clearly this guy's a grappler. And I'm like, oh, this guy is not shooting. Like, why are you a striker? And, the one thing that I actually think he does really well standing, and not even like, there's not even a caveat. Yep, you're doing it right now. For you guys who aren't
Yeah.
watching, Brandon is moving his shoulders, moving his head side to side. He has really good head movement.
It's kind of nice.
But
Yeah.
what he does with it that is actually really nice is he closes the distance with it. Is he rolls, he'll like rock left and right, and then he like shoulder bumps, almost boxing style, shoulder into the chest to close the distance, and he crowds. And that's actually pretty nice. It's actually, he does that very
You
effectively.
know what upsets me about all that is he does all of that beautiful work just to the second that he's going to counter back, lifts his chin up in the air and then throws.
And get hit with it. Like, you're absolutely right. It's really weird to see people do certain things like move. So we've talked about this with Matt Danger Schnell. Such good movement, such good, like, everything is there. You're like, oh man, he's so good. And then he just forgets to fight in these moments. And you're like, it's so frustrating. So
a two-handed tap.
Yeah.
Unforgivable.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yes. So, I mean, honestly, but you said it already. The thing with Chidi, it's not even his takedown defense that worries me. It's his lack of trying to get up afterwards, how he just sits in the guard. I mean, again, those two go in tandem. Maybe one thing if he got taken down and then was attacking submissions like crazy, or was like really trying to get back to his feet, but he's just like comfortable there. I mean, you take him down 1 second in the round, like you could be there for another 4 minutes and 59 seconds until that bell rings where he's just playing the guard. He should win this. He should absolutely win it. But you're right. It's scary. Now, the other thing, though, is Dusko. Is that even Dusko? Dustbuster. Dusko's wrestling's not great. He will wrestle a little bit. He'll shoot. He'll shoot on the cage. It's not wild. His cage wrestling's not phenomenal. It's standard. Like, if he can lock his hands, he'll lift you and dump you. But Chidi's long. He's tall, and that alone, if you're not a good cage wrestler, going against a taller person, doesn't matter even if they're good. Just tall, long, lanky, anchored against the cage is a really hard thing to deal with. I don't think that Dusko's going to be able to chain wrestle that. And so you guys, again, Chidi should win this. He's the A side here. Dusko should be out of the UFC after this. But man, if Chidi's just wrestling defense and lack of standing up is just something to be careful for. So bet Chidi. Just, man, watch he could be a parlay buster, though. He could be a parlay buster with bad decisions.
I think this is a good card for straight betting. It's a lot of these cards that people think are horrible might end up being some of the best cards because you can straight bet almost everybody on this card. There's nobody that's outlandish. Hell, I'll straight bet Jailton Almeida, my life savings.
Well, yeah, I mean, this I said on the pod last week, I did not like last week's card. I didn't like it in terms of interest. And on initial view, and even during the podcast, I didn't like it for betting. I just wasn't wowed by it. I kept watching fights. I kept looking at the odds. I kept looking at different bets. And then come fight time, there were some bets that I really liked. And of course, we talked about it earlier. I did well. It was 12 for 12, and a lot of people made a lot of money. So there are spots. You just have to watch it. And you guys, don't bet all these massive parlays and you put the same lock in all of your parlays, because that same lock in all of your parlays is Tagir. Tagir will pop all of your parlays if you put him in all of your parlays. So mix them up or straight bet, and I think you've got a lot of good stuff here. Next up, we've got Santiago Ponzinibbio and Michel Pereira. Did I go first on this last one? Did you? Who went? You guys out there in YouTube land, keep track.
I went
for
first,
us.
so now it's up to you.
Okay, so we've got Pereira. All right, Pereira. Jesus, I can't even speak. Pereira. He is, I think he's 5-1 in the UFC. Beat Danny Roberts. He actually lost to Dusko, you guys. So this guy. But did you watch that fight? Did you watch the Michel fight with Dusko?
Not recently.
So I was watching that for Dusko, actually, and then Pereira's on the card as well. This happens when a lot of Brazilians go to Europe to fight, and you see this in ACA all the time. Is it ACA, ABA? What the hell am I talking about over here? It used to be ACB, and now it's ACA. So you see all the Brazilians with good records.
There's actually both. There's two promotions.
Um, I think one of them is now the other one, but maybe I'm wrong there.
Nope,
But
there's two different. Anyways,
ACA and ACB are still separate promotions?
yeah.
Okay. I
Hmm.
thought ACA was now, or ACB was now ACA. Anyway, semantics of Russian promotions, but now are there even promotions anymore in Russia with everything going on? But you see it all the time. These Brazilians with these good records go over there and they lose to Europeans. And what happens anytime you guys are betting these European shows and you've got a European, a Polish guy, a Ukrainian, a DAG against a Brazilian, I mean, you'll get these DAGs who are, or just Russians in general, who are 5-1 against these Brazilians who are like 18-1. And you're like, man, the Brazilian is going to win all day, every day. You look at the record, who they've beaten, who've everything. And they should. But what the promoters do is they fly these guys out in short notice. They fly them in on the longest flights you can get. I mean, these like 18-hour layovers, 12-hour layovers, like these crazy, 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 insane things. And they have them show up the day of weigh-ins, all right? Or the night right before weigh-ins. So these guys are traveling for like 36 hours, either cutting weight or figuring it out. And then they show up and it's like 12 hours before weigh-ins. They haven't slept and then they have to make weight and then they fight. And it is, I mean, they just don't perform. So I think that was what happened here because Pereira just stood there and just did nothing and just moved around and covered up and got beat up. And that was a wrap. I mean, really weird fight because I really think Pereira is so much better than that. And I think Dusko is not that good. And I think if they were to fight in America in the UFC, I think Pereira beats him 10 out of 10 times. So anyway, just a little random weird backstory. So if you guys want to fight and bet, or I'm sorry, bet these Eastern European shows, these Russian shows, and you see a Russian and a Brazilian, just know that information. That's happened to a lot of the guys who have come to America and trained with us from Brazil. Now, onto this fight. You've got Pereira. He lost to Tristan Connolly in the UFC. And that's a bad loss. Let's not kid ourselves. That's a bad loss. I was at that fight. I was at the weigh-ins. That was before COVID. It was in Vancouver. And Pereira was in the sauna for 2 days cutting weight before that fight happened. And Connolly was in last minute, showed up, and just got through round one, and Pereira was so dead, whatever. That was a bad loss. That was a horrible weight cut for him. It was brutal. I don't even think he made weight. I forget, but it's been a long time. Then he lost to Diego Sanchez. F that. He won. He threw a knee. Diego milked it. He got the win right there. All right. So just that's a backstory on his losses in the UFC. Other than that, though, I mean, he beat Chaos Williams, Nico Price, and most recently Andre Fiallo. And that win is aging well. Fiallo, I actually picked Pereira against Fiallo in that fight. And since then, I picked Fiallo in his last two fights because we love some Fiallo over here. And I think that fight was really telling about Pereira and about this Ponzinibbio fight because when Fiallo was pressing the action, man, he was winning because how do you beat Pereira is a kicker first, and he will throw hands, but he is a kicker and he is a mover, and he's got a front kick up the middle for days that is going to hit the body and really wear people out. And how do you deal with a kicker who wants range? Well, you crowd them and you box them, all right? And we saw that in round one. Fiallo crowded him and he boxed him and he won round one. And then I don't know if it's cardio or what, but Fiallo stopped pressing in round two. And you give Pereira the space and you give him forward movement, and he gets to dictate that range, and he is winning all day long. Round three, we saw Fiallo come out, press again, and won that round until Pereira caught him and started pressing back. In the Pereira is a front runner and he's a forward pressure guy. And if he's going forward and dictating the range, he is going to win. And of course, he's wild and dynamic, but I think people overestimate his wild and dynamic craziness. He's not a Johnny Walker who needs to win in this crazy fashion. He can do it like he did with Fiallo and pick him apart with that range. The difference, though, is Ponzinibbio is a good striker. He's an adept wrestler. But he doesn't pressure the way that Fiallo does. He is okay with the range, with letting people dictate that in and out type of range. And I think that is going to kill him here. I think if he wants to beat Pereira, he needs to be in his face and he needs to be swinging and crowding like Fiallo did. Look at the first round of Fiallo, perfect. Look at the first part of the third round with Fiallo, perfect. Anytime you don't press Pereira and you let him in and out, and there's this natural balance of fighting, and watch the Jeff Neal fight. He was in and out with him um, like a natural progression of a fight. He, that is what Pereira wants to win. And you need to be uncomfortable. And there's a very, very, very uncomfortable thing with pressing and crowding that space like Fiallo does. And he is happily there and he's successful there. And I think we see, I think we see Pereira picking Ponzinibbio apart like he did to Fiallo when he had the success when he was dictating the pace.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. This one was a really tough read for me. One old guy, one young guy throwing down. Tough for me because to me we don't know the Michel Pereira that we're gonna get. Just like you were talking about, that Fialho fight was a really good fight. I think he's getting better at just learning how to fight correctly. Once, after that first round, the first round, he was trying all kinds of off the wall shit, getting backed up the entire time. Fialho, like you said, dominated that round. Once he started just biting down on the mouthpiece, holding his ground and throwing jabs and crosses and front kicks, he took over the fight. He looked a million times better in the clinch. In every minute he won after that, it looked great. The one thing I will say about Ponzinibbio, because I did spend a good amount of time with him at the UFC PI when I was out there cornering with Camuela. Very smart guy. Very, 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 very smart guy. Him and King Mo, game planners, very smart guys. Um, I think he's solid. I think he's tough. I think he's durable. So I don't have a great feeling either way on this one. I want to go Ponzinibbio just because I think he's more solid and I think he's a little bit higher fight IQ. Just like you were talking about, my read was the exact same as when Pereira gets pressured. Uh, he gives up minutes and he loves backing up. The way that I look at it, I think that Ponzinibbio is better than Chaos Williams. I think he's a slicker striker. I think he's more solid and definitely a higher fight IQ. Just way more well rounded. And I think Chaos, there was an argument to be made that he won that fight. I mean, it was a very, very close fight, but I think there's an argument to be made there. The Nico Price fight, right? Pereira dominated him and then gassed out badly. But Ponzinibbio, we still see him fighting, tooth and nail with Jeff Neal, who's a really good boxer, young guy. We see him going at these guys. So I think he can push a pace for 15 minutes. I think he's got what it takes to get it done here. I don't love his age. There's a couple things I don't love: the injuries, the knockouts. But Pereira's not really knocking a ton of people out lately. I like Ponzi to get it done.
The thing that worries me is when Ponzinibbio had that layoff, I think it was a knee injury or something. And, he's a fight analyst. He's a Spanish broadcast fight analyst for the UFC, or a commentator. I'm sorry, not analyst, but commentator. So he's watching tape, he's doing a lot. So it makes sense. He's smart. He's game planning. He gets it. When he came back, he's 1-2 since his comeback. All right. He beat Baeza, but man, Baeza, we've seen just one of those guys who beats himself, just doesn't have the chin. So just good and just can't put it together on those win streaks. But he lost to Jingling Li and sorry, I'm pulling up his stuff right now. I clicked out of it on mistake. But he lost to Jingling Li, beat Miguel Baez, and he lost to Jeff Neal. And I mean, that was a split decision, but gosh, I just thought he looked old. I thought that at that point, time caught up to him. He looked wider. His punches weren't as crisp. I thought even his wrestling, I didn't think looked as dynamic. He was slow. He was trying to take Neal down. When he did get Neal down, he was hanging on to him, and Neal just wizard, hip heist wizard, put him flat on his back, got right back up. I just don't see him having the same success that he did when he was earlier. And that age, again, I think Pereira is getting better and better and better. And I think Ponzinibbio is at the twilight of his career. And I think we've seen the I think the best of Ponzinibbio is behind him, and we're gonna see him losing to guys. If this was 3 years ago, Ponzinibbio wins hands down, not even a question. But he's not as fast as he used to be. His punches are a little bit wider. He's getting clipped a little bit more. And honestly, I think his cardio is not what it once was. I thought he was a cardio machine back in the day, and I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's as dominant. And I think Pereira is young. He's getting better. He's getting smarter. And I think Pereira is just on the upward swing. And I think Ponzinibbio is on that downward swing. And in a closely contested fight with these two guys, I like the guy with momentum, with age on his side, versus the guy who is on the other side of age sliding down, who has not had the success that we've seen. We rarely
All
do you
right, you talked me into it. I'm with you.
Here's the thing, and I'm not shouting from the rooftops because I don't think this is a huge Pereira win. This is a 55-45 spread for me on this. And my thing is this, and I see this a lot just in the game. Look at people's records, okay? And look at people who had very dominant streaks, and then look at them after they lose 2, 3, 4 fights. You have the Jan Blahowicz's who come back and have these amazing careers. You have the RDAs, you've got the Charles Oliveira's. For the most part, once people start losing to people, I would say that Ponzinibbio should have beaten Jeff Neal and Jingling Lee. And once you see people start to lose to people they should win, should beat, and you start to see these streaks, rarely do they have these amazing turnarounds. If they're 22, maybe, but not at 36. I like Pereira here. I don't love him, but I do like him, for those reasons.
All right, let's move on to our finale and let's bounce.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I did not watch a lot of new tape on this. Honestly, I was going top to bottom and then bottom to top without the main event in mind. But we've all seen Holly Holm. We've seen Ketlen Vieira. You talked about that Ketlen Vieira fight against Yanitskaya. Tell us about that. Tell us about her a little bit, and we'll finish this up.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so just really short. Like when I was first starting and doing this by myself, I would just chat one guy. Pardon me, my buddy UFC Shark. And I remember telling him, okay, this is my breakout week. I finally got, like $5,000. I got to the account and I was like, okay, this is the week that I go crazy and I really rip it open big. And I had nailed everything on that card. All I needed was Ketlen Vieira against Yana Kunitskaya to seal the deal. Takes her down, does nothing, gets punched from having Yana's back and loses that fight, right? Loses the fight. The decision could have gone either way. Do you value control or damage? Honestly, I thought she lost the fight too, which is weird as a jiu-jitsu guy, but it was just bad. Okay. Now she fights Miesha Tate and has a close striking battle with a horrible striker in Miesha Tate. So for me, this one is really simple. Doesn't mean I want to bet it. Doesn't mean I love it. It's not like my number one play or anything like that. But I think Holly Holm is a better boxer. I think she's always had great cardio. I think she's always got great game plans. I like Holly Holm here. I like her to outpoint her, out cardio her, out skill her. We talk about the age not mattering as much in the women's division. She is 40 years old, which is unfortunate. But man, it's hard to be in love with a play here. But I just think Holly Holm is the better all around fighter.
Yeah, I mean, Holly Holm is, you said it, cardio, but she's got a weird durability factor about her as well. I mean, Amanda Nunes knocked her out. Hey, it's Amanda freaking Nunes. She went like 100 rounds with Chris Cyborg, which, man, honestly, I thought she could have won that fight if she had mixed it up. She just did the same thing again and again and again and again in that fight, which was painful to watch. Just gosh, that was brutal. But other than that, I mean, she was beating Miesha Tate up until the very last. Man, I thought she was well on her way to winning that fight until Miesha took her back and got that choke. Of course, that kick heard around the world against Ronda Rousey, and then a who's who of the division. She's old, but again, women don't age the same as men. Heavyweights and women age slower than our weight, 25 to 70-pound men. All right, they hit 36, they die. I mean, they're dinosaurs in terms of MMA. For some reason, when you're bigger, I don't know, it doesn't work the same. When you're a woman, it doesn't work the same. She's had a couple knee injuries, but her striking, I mean, is leagues above Ketlen Vieira's. Um, her her takedown defense isn't. It's decent, it's good, but it's not world beater ish. But her movement makes it so much better. She moves so much. She's hard to get your hands on, and she's a smart enough grappler. Like I said, guys, I didn't watch a ton of new tape on this. Um, the over here, I think, is an easy pick. I think over 3.5 is the freaking lock of locks on this. It's most likely going to go to decision, but in that 5th round of championship fight, some weird stuff can happen. That 4th round, that 5th round toward the end, people get a little bit weird. I think over 3.5 here. I think Holm probably wins it. I can't really bet on Ketlen Vieira. Just her inability to go take a fight like the Yanitskaya fight. She's on her back, not even trying to finish, not even trying to do damage. She's just there hanging out. And I can't get behind that. So I think Holm wins it. I think it's probably by decision. Make your bets accordingly.
All right. I think that wraps up another sode.
I think it does. You guys make sure to check out our Patreon. Like Brandon said, it's $25 a month. You get all of the UFC cards. You get access to our Discord. You get Fury FC picks and Bellator picks and a bunch of other picks. Please subscribe to the channel if you like it. Give us a little like and comment. We always love hearing your guys' comments. Unless you say dumb stuff like, hey, you should tell us if you train people after we spent 5 minutes telling you that we train people. If you're going to leave dumb comments like that, get the hell out of here. Otherwise, leave our comments, argue with us all you want. We love hearing from you guys. So that's what we got. Check out my bookie, MMA picks 50,
And your book.
and my book. Check out my bookie and my bookie. All in the show notes.
Someone tell Loopy that I've been trying to chat her. If you guys need to tag me in the comments, just be like, yo, what up, Loopy? He's trying to chat you up. And Kyle Bochniak also.
And yeah, shout out to Bochniak, guys. As always, we'll see you.